All right, we're going to talk with our panel now about those memorable images from this week we showed you at the start of the program. Here in Indianapolis Monday, police and protesters walking arm in arm, and that same day outside the White House, President Trump walking to the nearby St. John's Church that had been burned the night before, the president holding a Bible, not long after his AG ordered that area to be forcibly cleared of protesters. Let's start with Robin Winston, former state party chair for the Indiana Democrats. Robin, your thoughts on these two probably iconic moments that we witnessed in the same day earlier this week.
Not only were they iconic, Dan, you could see the difference in them. Here, police joined with the protesters making their way up Illinois and went on to the governor's residence. They helped quell the violence. They helped reduce some of the rancor that was between the groups, and I hope it'll be for the long-term good. Shift over to Washington, D.C., we have unnamed troops that nobody can figure out who they are. They don't have insignia. They went down and cleared out peaceful protesters that were in the president's route over to St. John's, where he stood in front of the church that was used by presidents since Madison and held the Bible upside down. So there's just totally different images for America. This is a very, very serious issue. We talked about it. It's not going away. I commend you, Dan, for look at your panel. Look at the diversity of your panel. Everyone in our background has been discriminated against, whether it's Catholic, Asian Indian, female, African American, but you've brought us together, and I think that's what people have to do more and more on their own individual way.
It's a conversation with everybody, no doubt. Mike, your thoughts on what we saw this week?
Well, first of all, a couple of things. One, the police marching or locking arm in arm with the demonstrators, the governor's residence, those decisions were made by rank and file police officers on the moment, making the best decisions they could, which were inspirational for people in Indiana to watch. Flip to St. John's, not only did the president hold the Bible upside down, but his staff claimed that it was very similar to when Winston Churchill visited East London after the bombings on September 8th of 1940. Eric Larson, the historian, said that claim by the White House staff verges on obscenity, because what happened with Churchill was he actually went to be empathetic, which Trump has never felt a day in his life, went to be empathetic and actually wept openly in front of the people in East London. There's no comparison there, and I would agree with Eric Larson. It's obscene to even try to make that comparison.
Let me go to Tony next. Tony, you may have a different view on what we saw there outside the White House.
I do. Very different, couldn't be more different. And I think everybody's missing a couple of key elements. Remember that the trip from the White House for the president to St. John's followed a lot of violence, not just in Washington, D.C., but all across the country, and the burning of the church the night before. So President Trump's walk to St. John's was symbolic, it was simple, it was important, and it was one that I think too many people are forgetting. And that message was that God is in charge and that we need to remember the word of God at this time of crisis and chaos. And one piece from the Bible, from Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18, says that where there is ignorance of God, crime runs wild. But what a wonderful thing it is for a nation to know and keep his laws. So on this Sunday morning, I think it's fitting that we're talking about that, because so many people miss the symbolism. The president held the Bible correctly. It just took a second to put it in the right direction. But the important thing isn't how anyone analyzes what he did. The importance is in the symbolism and the message that he's sharing. This country's on fire, and sure, we have places here and there where police and protesters are hugging and things are working out well, but we have far too much of the anarchists that are hurting the message from the peaceful protests and causing death and destruction. And it's happened here in Indianapolis, it's happened in Washington, D.C., and across the country. And that's what's important to remember about the president's message. Easy for the liberal and the liberal media to pick it apart, and that's a shame that that's happened.
Let me bring in Jennifer here. Your response to what we saw, Jennifer.
Sure. I mean, I think there was great symbolism in what the president did in clearing out a bunch of peaceful protesters and holding the Bible. I guess he did get it right, Tony, eventually upside down. That speaks volumes about where he stands. Later in the week, you know, he made comments about how the economy and the economic data would make George Floyd happy. He has no grasp of reality. I will say this, he was awfully lucky that St. John's is an Episcopalian church, and as an Episcopalian, we are like the nicest people ever. And so the response from the Episcopalian diocese was rather tepid, I thought. And I do want to say real quick, going back to Indianapolis, I mean, that was a remarkable moment. I live downtown. We watched all the live streams of all the protests, both because we wanted to see it, but also because we wanted to know where that was happening in respect to our house. And it was remarkable to watch those officers. I think the only thing that would have made it even better would have been to see Joe Hogsett and Eric Holcomb out there with them.
All right, let's move on now and talk about the primary, recapping that big 5th district race. Victoria Spartz winning the GOP primary. She will face Christina Hale in the fall. But Robin, also a lot of questions about how the November election will go procedurally now. What did you make of what we saw this past week?
Well, I was there. I was at Beech Grove and I was at North Central. I was in the parking lot. There were thousands of people waiting to vote. We went from 319 polling places to 22. We had a lot of people in line ready to vote. I hope that both Mike and Tony will do their lobbying skills, and obviously Jennifer and anybody else, that Governor Holcomb will continue to allow non-excuses for doing absentee balloting. That number went well over, I think when the smoke clears, probably 600,000 people made a decision to be safe, be healthy, and still participate in the electoral process.
Tony,
I hope that it will continue, and I hope that we'll use it this fall.
Tony, what about that debate over absentee ballots again in the fall in Indiana, no-fault absentees?
Well, looking back at this election, it didn't go smoothly at all in Marion County. In some counties it did, but just take our household, for example. We requested the absentee ballots. My wife got hers. I didn't get mine. I went to vote on Election Day. Stood in line for over 2 hours, but finally did vote. I think the people that were working the polls were great, but I think there were too few of them, and it was the Democrats that were supposed to get those, and cutting down from over 200 polling sites to 22 was ridiculous, and that's why you had the long lines. As far as the fall goes, we've got to make sure above anything else that we've got election integrity and election security. And so some of these movements around the country by the Democrat National Committee to promote illegal ballot harvesting and do away with signature verification, that kind of thing. We've got to make sure that doesn't happen here. And I have a lot of faith in Connie Lawson, our Secretary of State, and we've got time to get it right. So I think we will.
Jennifer, your thoughts both on the election process and the results we saw Tuesday?
Well, I think we need to give it another try in November. I think there are people who still want to vote in person. We need to have more polling places. But if you want to vote absentee, you should not have to provide a reason for that. Our process in our household went just fine. Logged online, checked when our ballots were mailed, when they were received. So I think we will have more time to plan, and I think there's no reason not to allow people multiple ways to cast their ballot. And on CD5, I am really excited about November. I think Christina Hale has a great shot at defeating Victoria Spartz. I think Victoria Spartz had to run really, really, really far to the right in her primary campaign to come out victorious. And I think that's going to be really great for Christina, our former In Focus colleague, to come in and really speak to the moderates and the folks who want to get stuff done.
Senator Spartz will be on the show with us next week. Mike, your thoughts? Is that 5th district race going to be a close one?
Well, it will be close. Hamilton County continues to be in turmoil. Just look at the primary results, set aside the 5th district. We had a well-known former mayor, John Ditzler, failed in his county council race, and I feel badly for him because he was a great mayor and he went out the wrong way. You also had 2 incumbent county council members be defeated. That was a big surprise. You also had Leah McGrath, the deputy mayor of Fishers, lose in a state reps race. Probably should have been hers.
A lot to watch there. Yeah.
Turmoil in Hamilton County.
Okay. Mike, thanks. Mike, Robin, Tony, Jennifer, we appreciate it. Coming up next this Sunday in Focus, we're looking at some of the polling data on race relations in America. We'll be right back.